And I remember having a call with Three, it's a network in the UK.
Yeah.
And they, many years after we launched, came up with a product called Roam Like Home. And they were like, how do we disrupt the market? And they said to me, we looked at what you guys were doing in roaming, and we said, let's launch Roam Like Home product. So I'm sure a lot of networks kind of copied our ideas. So when I left my job, mobile phones had just been invented. You know, it was all the craze. You know, so can you imagine today there's 4 billion plus handsets around the world, but literally back then it was in the hands of a few people.
What year was
and
this?
This was going back to the early 1990s.
Okay.
And we saw that as being a huge craze. So we rode the wave of the mobile revolution at the time, and we were kind of one of the biggest, ended up being one of the biggest distributors of mobile phones in the United Kingdom, in Dubai. I was behind setting up one of the Dubai's biggest retail stores, which was Axiom Telecom, which is still there today. It was a model based around Carphone Warehouse in the United Kingdom, which paid out big commissions for every contract that somebody signed up to at the time. We end up into phone distribution, accessory distribution, and then after that, I set up WorldSim, which was disrupting the roaming market.
Yeah. Explain that in a little bit more detail, because would you say that was the catapult to take you to the next level? Would you say that the roaming business?
Yeah, I think after moving out of handset distribution, I was looking for a new challenge within telecoms, because the telecom field was growing, and we were looking at a space that was untapped, really. Mobile networks were making huge amounts of profits when people went abroad and wanted to use their phone while they were for business or on holiday. And I'm talking about £5 a minute back then. And this was also at a time when data hadn't been invented, literally mobile data. So people were using voice and SMS. And we were looking at ways of how we could disrupt that market, because £5 for a 1 minute call today, we're talking about 25 dirhams. People will be like, you know, many youth won't believe that there was ever a time where they were charged, you know,
almost $10,
yeah, for a call. But yeah, we lived through those times. And as a traveler, I was always traveling a lot, and you know, it was the inconvenience of calling cards or pay phones. You know, how do you stay in touch with business people, or how do you stay in touch with family, or let your parents know that you're safe and well? So we looked at the market, and we looked at what technologies existed, and we kind of, you know, co-invented a system where when you are roaming, rather than use the operator that you are in the country, like if in Dubai Etisalat, to make an outbound call, we invented a callback mechanism embedded on the SIM card. So when you arrive in a country, you want to make a call, you dial the number, but it wouldn't place the call. It would rather send a USSD message, something like an SMS, back to our server in London to tell us that you want to make a call, and it would give us your number, and it would give us the number that you've dialed on your phone. And then we would call you, so you would receive an incoming call. When you answer the call, it would tell you, please wait while we connect to your call. So rather than use the operator in the country to make the outbound call, we would make the outbound call from London to where you want to call, and then connect the two calls together. So now you are receiving an incoming call, which was very cheap, but still talking, you know, still talking to whoever you wanted to, because we connected your call. So it was a way of disrupting the market, and it did very well for us for many years.
How much money did you make from it?
I don't want to disclose that, but it was a good market simply because the margins were very high back then.
So how did you come up with the idea? Like, how do you just come up with such an idea that disrupts the market when it does? Because normally the advice that's given, right, is like, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Just take something that's already working and find a way to add your own unique touch. So how did you come up with this revolutionary idea?
I mean, look, there's good business sense in all different business models. Sometimes it's worth, you know, looking at something that's already out there and improving it. Other times it's looking at, you know, a problem that needs to, you know, something that needs to be solved, and how do you solve it? And I used to travel a lot, and I used to travel since the age of 13, you know, alone as a child. So I knew my mom was always worried about me, and she couldn't hold me back, and I wanted to travel. But I knew that she was like, when's he going to call me? Has he arrived? Is he safe? You know, all the worries that a mom has. And obviously, I kept traveling and lived in many countries. So it was a problem that was constantly on my mind. And being in technology, I was always evaluating different products, ideas, services, technologies. And I think I came across a technology or solution that I thought could be applied in this case. And that's how it started. Kept exploring, doing R&D until we launched the service.
Was it like just you immediately found success, or would you say you did go through a lot of failures to actually then get to this major breakthrough?
In this particular case, obviously we had a lot of iterations of the product before we went to the market, and we had a lot of barriers to overcome. So one barrier was user experience.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that was if you tell people that you're making an outbound call, but actually you're going to receive an incoming call, and then it will connect you. Once you answer the incoming call, it would connect you to whoever you dial. So we had that user experience issue to deal with. And the other issue was when we were selling SIM cards to people, there was a practice in the United Kingdom, not so much in Dubai and in Asia, but handsets were locked. So people want to use our SIM card, but the phone was locked. So we had a lot of different challenges like this that we had to overcome, but that kind of helped us. We came up with our own mobile phones, our own tablets, which we introduced to the market, our own MiFi devices when were launched and when data came into play. And then we used airlines, the duty frees and airports and travel agents and tour operators to distribute that. So we had challenges, we dealt with it, we overcame it.
So on that point of distribution, because that's what I wanted to ask you, right? Because at this point in time, WorldSim is a fairly new company, right? So I would assume towards the beginning, like you don't have this massive global reputation that you have today, right? So how do you go about, getting in touch with these, how do you build these distribution channels? How do you go about marketing it at this point? Especially because it's a brand new product, right? Like, how do you build that credibility? How did you do it?
I think so. The first thing I know we had to do was get a domain name that resonated with our product. So our company is called WorldSim, and I think the name kind of explains what the product is, which is a global SIM card. So that getting the domain name was very important because that kind of gave customers or people an idea what we were doing. And I think the second thing was doing a lot of media within airplanes. So today people don't pick up the in-flight catalogs within or the magazines in their seat. But back then they did because there was no screens on the back of your seat. Today, it's a different thing. People are just engrossed in their movies and so on. But back then, people would pick up and flick through. So we did a lot of advertising, a lot of press releases, a lot of our products were carried in the duty free. So people would be in the plane thinking, oh, wow, that's interesting. I can get a SIM card I can use when I land in Dubai or Saudi or Singapore. I can buy it on the plane. So as soon as I land, it'll work when I switch it on. So that was.
But how do you convince these airlines and duty free and these companies to sort of work with you and put your product in their catalogs? And how's the process of that?
Yeah, I think you've got to knock on doors, send samples, speak to people, demo the product. And, most people at that time when they saw it, they were blown away. And they were like, when they looked at the difference in rates that the normal operator would charge compared to what we were charging, it was kind of a slam dunk sometimes.
Brilliant, man. It's very, very interesting.